know what drives me absolutely crazy? Watching brothers and sisters throw money at the stock market like they're feeding coins into a slot machine, completely ignoring the fact that they've got credit card debt charging them 22% interest sitting right there laughing at them. Riba is one of the major sins explicitly named in the Quran, and yet half the people I talk to who want to start halal investing are simultaneously carrying a balance on a card that compounds the very thing they are trying to avoid. It's like trying to fill a bucket that has massive holes in the bottom and wondering why you're not making any progress. My name is Omar and I spent way too much time thinking about money, halal investment strategies, and why most Muslims seem determined to do everything in the wrong order when it comes to building real wealth. If you actually want to understand the proper sequence for investing your money the halal way, instead of just throwing dollars at whatever sounds exciting, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it ends up saving you from some expensive and frankly spiritually expensive mistakes. Here's something that might shock you. According to recent Federal Reserve data, about 47% of Americans cannot cover a $1,000 emergency from cash savings, and the median emergency fund sits closer to $600 according to Empower's tracking. Cross that with the ISPU American Muslim Poll 2025 finding that 37% of US Muslim households earn under $30,000 a year compared to 26% of the general public, and you start to see why our community has even less margin for error than the average. Meanwhile, those same households are asking me whether they should buy individual screen stocks or jump on the new halal real estate syndication someone announced at the masjid. It's like asking whether you should buy a Lamborghini when you don't have enough money to fix the transmission in your current car. The truth is, there's an optimal order for investing your money inside the halal frame that can save you tens of thousands of dollars over your lifetime, dramatically accelerate your path to financial independence, and most importantly, keep you out of riba while you're doing it. But most people completely ignore this sequence because it's not as exciting as picking the next hot Sharia squint ETF or comparing Wahed to a self-directed account on Reddit. They want to skip straight to the fun stuff without doing the boring foundational work. Today I'm going to walk you through the exact order you should be investing your money, step by step, so you can maximize your returns, minimize your tax bill, stay clean of riba, and not skip your zakat math along the way. And I guarantee some of this is going to surprise you, especially the part about why your employer match should come before almost everything else, even though the default fund is a halal nightmare, and why a health savings account might be the most powerful tool most Muslims are completely sleeping on. Before we dive into the specific steps, let me tell you why getting this order wrong can be devastating in our context specifically. Imagine you're building a house. You wouldn't start by picking out fancy light fixtures if your foundation was cracked. Yet that's exactly what most Muslims do with their finances. They get excited about a halal investing app while carrying a credit card balance that's actively compounding riba in the background. Every month you delay paying off credit card debt charging you 22% is a month where that debt is growing faster than almost any halal investment you could reasonably expect to make. Every month you ignore your employer's matching contribution is literally free money you're leaving on the table. And every month you contribute to a regular taxable brokerage before maxing out tax-advantaged options is money you're unnecessarily handing to the IRS instead of letting it compound for your kids' inheritance, your future Hajj, and your future Faraid distribution. Step 1. Before you invest a single dollar anywhere, you need to establish a halal emergency fund. I know this sounds boring. I know you'd rather hear about which Zoya screen stock is going to make you rich. But here's why this matters more than you think. An emergency fund isn't just about having money for unexpected expenses, though that's certainly important. It's about creating a psychological safety net that prevents you from making terrible financial decisions, including reaching for an interest-bearing credit card or an interest-bearing personal loan when life inevitably throws you a curveball. When your car breaks down, or you face an unexpected medical bill, or you suddenly need to fly back home for a janaza, having an emergency fund means you don't have to sell your halal investments at the worst possible time or rack up riba-bearing debt to cover the expense. Now here's the catch most general personal finance content skips. The standard advice is to park your emergency fund in a high-yield savings account. For a Muslim, the interest those accounts pay is straight riba. The clean play is a non-interest-bearing checking or savings account, a Wahed cash account, or a credit union account where you've explicitly opted out of interest crediting where possible. You may give up some yield, but you're protecting your foundation. The traditional advice is 3 to 6 months of expenses. Start with your first $1,000 as quickly as possible to cover most minor emergencies. Then work toward 1 month of expenses, then build to 3. Recent research from Vanguard found that people with at least $2,000 in emergency savings had financial well-being scores 21% higher than those without. That was the largest boost linked to any factor they measured. $2,000 isn't life-changing money, but the psychological impact of that buffer is enormous. Step 2. Once your emergency fund is in place, you need to eliminate all high-interest debt before investing anything else. And when I say high-interest debt, I'm talking about anything charging you more than about 8% annually, though the threshold can vary. Credit card debt is the obvious villain. With average rates over 22%, credit card debt is financial cancer. And unlike most other debt categories, it's also an active and ongoing source of riba flowing out of your account every month. Carrying a balance while you're starting to invest in screened equities is like trying to run a marathon with a backpack full of rocks. The math alone is brutal. If you have $5,000 in credit card debt at 22% and you make only minimum payments, you'll pay nearly $2,800 in interest over 5 years. That's money working against you instead of for you. And from a Muslim standpoint, that interest is not just a financial drag. It is the exact thing the Quran addresses directly when it warns against riba. Every dollar you use to pay down that debt is essentially earning you a guaranteed 22% return, which is better than what Sheikh Joe Bradford or anyone else with a Sharia screen on their portfolio can promise you. Pay the minimums on everything, then throw every extra dollar at the debt with the highest profit equivalent rate. This is the debt avalanche method and it saves you the most money. Some people prefer the snowball method for psychological motivation, but the avalanche is more efficient. As far as the scholarly view on paying off existing riba-bearing debt, the consensus position is that you must settle and clear it as quickly as you can. What is forbidden is taking on new riba-bearing debt or letting existing balances compound when you have the means to clear them. Get a real ruling from a scholar you trust on your specific debts. There's one major exception to the rule about paying off debt before investing, and it's so important it becomes the next step. If your employer offers matching contributions to your 401k, you should contribute enough to get the full match even before you finish paying off high-interest debt. Step 3. Capture the 401k employer match. This might seem counterintuitive when you're still carrying riba balances, but the math is compelling. Employer matching is essentially a guaranteed 50% to 100% immediate return on your contribution, which usually beats even the 22% you're losing on credit card debt. It's like finding money on the ground that your employer doubles when you pick it up. Here's the typical example. Your employer might match 50 cents on the dollar up to 6% of your salary. If you earn $50,000 a year, contributing $3,000 to get the full $1,500 match represents an immediate 50% return plus whatever the investment earns. No other opportunity guarantees that kind of return. Now here's the part that's specific to us. The default fund inside most US 401k plans is loaded with conventional bond holdings and shares of conventional banks, which is a halal mess. Sheikh Joe Bradford, who serves as a Sharia advisor for Zoya and is a AOIFIC SAA accredited, has been advocating for years that Muslims should ask HR to add a self-directed brokerage account option to their 401k plan as a religious accommodation. An SDBA lets you skip the default fund menu and buy Sharia-screened ETFs like HLAL, SPUS, SPSK, or individual Zoya-screened equities directly inside your 401k wrapper. If your employer doesn't offer SDBA, the next best move is to screen the menu yourself, pick the most equity-heavy and bond-light option, plan and contribute only up to the match while you push HR. There are also some plans where you can take the match in Roth, contribute, then immediately roll out to a Halal IRA when you separate from service. The point is, don't skip the match because the menu is bad. Get the match, then fix the structure. Step 4. Maximize your IRA. And here's why this comes before putting more money into your employer's 401k.
Your IRA gives you far more control over your halal investment choices and typically comes with much lower fees than most employer plans. Corporate 401k plans are notorious for limited menus of expensive mutual funds, and they almost never include screened halal options unless you've already secured the SDBA. With an IRA, you can open a Wahed account where the US minimum is just $100 and the wrap fee is 0.99% under $250,000, or open a Schwab or Fidelity self-directed IRA and buy Sharia-screened ETFs and individual Zoya-screened stocks at zero commission. For 2025, you can contribute up to $7,000 to an IRA or $8,000 if you're 50 or older. The Roth versus traditional decision boils down to a simple question with a complicated answer. Do you want to pay taxes now or later? Traditional accounts let you deduct contributions today, but you pay taxes when you withdraw in retirement. Roth accounts make you pay taxes up front, but withdrawals in retirement are completely tax-free. The general rule that works for most people: if you're currently in a high tax bracket and expect to be lower in retirement, choose traditional. If you're lower now and expect higher later, choose Roth. Predicting future tax rates is about as reliable as predicting the weather 3 months out. Many young Muslims starting out should lean Roth because they're in their lowest earning years and tax brackets historically only go up. There's also a Muslim-specific argument some scholars and practitioners raise that Roth simplifies the long-term zakat picture because the contribution and growth have already cleared their tax treatment. None of that is a ruling. Get yours from someone who knows your tax situation. Step 5. If you have access to a health savings account, this is where it gets really exciting because HSAs might be the most underutilized vehicle in America for Muslims specifically. They're the Swiss Army knife of tax-advantaged accounts with 3 different tax benefits stacked on top of each other. You get a tax deduction for contributions like a traditional IRA. Your money grows tax-free while invested. And here's the kicker: withdrawals for qualified medical expenses are completely tax-free even in retirement. It's the only account that gives you tax benefits on the way in, while the money grows and on the way out. For 2025, you can contribute up to $4,300 with individual coverage or $8,550 for family coverage. The catch is that you need a high-deductible health plan to be eligible. The Muslim-specific play is that almost every modern HSA platform such as Fidelity HSA, Lively, or Health Equity lets you self-direct your investments inside the account. Once your HSA balance crosses the platform's investment threshold, you can buy the same screened ETFs you're using in your IRA, pay current medical expenses out of pocket if you can afford to, and let the HSA money stay invested. Keep all your medical receipts because there's no time limit on when you can reimburse yourself. You could pay for a doctor visit today, keep the receipt, and reimburse yourself from your HSA 20 years from now, tax-free. After age 65, HSAs become flexible. You can withdraw for any purpose, though you pay income tax on non-medical withdrawals like a traditional IRA. The math on HSAs is stunning. If you max out for 30 years and earn 7% annually inside screened equities, you could have over $400,000 in tax-free money for medical expenses. Given that the average couple retiring today will spend over $300,000 on healthcare in retirement, an HSA can essentially make those costs disappear from your retirement budget. Step 6. Once you've maxed out your IRA and HSA, you go back and max out your 401k beyond the employer match. The 2025 contribution limit is $23,500 for most people, or $31,000 if you're 50 or older. At this point, you're really cooking with gas from a tax perspective. Between IRA, HSA, and 401k, you could potentially shelter over $35,000 a year from current taxation if you're under 50, even more with catch-up contributions. That's serious money compounding without the IRS taking their cut every year. Most US Muslims never get past this point. The average American saves about 6% of their income, which usually isn't enough to even max the employer match and IRA, let alone everything else. If you're one of the people who can actually work through this entire sequence, you're already in the top 5% of savers in this country, and frankly, in the top 1% of US Muslim savers given the income data. Step 7. Once you've worked through every tax-advantaged option, that's when we finally get to the step most people want to start with: halal taxable investment accounts. There's a specific strategy for this final step that separates serious wealth building from collecting trinkets. Halal taxable accounts are the place where you can buy individual Sharia-screened stocks, hold sukuk, allocate to wahed beyond IRA contribution limits, or invest in halal real estate syndications and private equity deals without contribution limits or withdrawal restrictions. It's also where most people make their biggest mistakes because they think unlimited access automatically makes them smarter. Here's the thing about taxable accounts that drives me nuts. People get so excited about the flexibility that they forget about the tax drag, and they forget about the zakat drag. Every dividend payment from a screened equity gets taxed by the IRS that year. Every time you sell for a gain, the IRS wants their cut, and on top of that, you owe annual zakat on the value of your taxable holdings above debt once you've held them past one lunar year above the silver-based nisab, which in 2026 sits around $1,495 per SAPA-USA in the American Muslim Community Foundation. The tax efficiency advantage of keeping money inside the IRA and HSA wrappers can be staggering. Invest $10,000 a year for 30 years at 7%. Inside a tax-advantaged account, you end up with about $944,000. In a taxable account paying tax on dividends and gains along the way, you end up closer to $700,000. That's a $240,000 tax drag delta on the same screen portfolio. Once you've maxed everything else though, halal taxable accounts become powerful. They give you complete flexibility for a halal home purchase down payment in 5 years, for an early retirement bridge before you can access the IRA, or for the inheritance you want to leave per Farid rules. Taxable accounts also get a step up in basis when you die, which can eliminate capital gains taxes for your heirs entirely and dramatically simplify the Farid distribution. So there you have it, the optimal order for investing your money inside the halal frame that most Muslims completely ignore in their rush to feel like they're doing something. Halal emergency fund, riba debt elimination, 401k employer match with SDBA and push, Roth IRA in screened vehicles, HSA, max the 401k, then finally halal taxable accounts. Pay your zakat every Ramadan on whatever zakatable wealth you're holding above debt, and revisit your screening at least annually because Sharia screens shift as company financial shift. As always, the math is the math. The scholarly views on specific products and contracts genuinely differ, and your final ruling on any particular vehicle has to come from a scholar you trust who knows your situation. Follow this sequence and you'll be quietly building real wealth while everyone else is still arguing about which crypto coin some uncle insists is halal. Your future self, your future kids, and the people who'll receive your Farid shares one day will thank you for doing the boring foundational work first.